Right, hi everyone. This is live coding, so I am going to work through this tutorial problem and write the code from scratch without having looked at the solution for quite a long time. And the idea is to show you how to think about these problems, how to approach them. So let's see. This is tutorial 1, and the first question is password. So the very first step is to read the description thoroughly so we understand all or most of it, at least enough to write the program. So it says write a program password check.java that contains a static method boolean is good password, and it takes a string parameter, a method that returns true if and only if the given string argument is a good password. Good means that it is at least 8 characters long, contains at least one digit from 0 to 9, contains at least one uppercase letter, contains at least one lowercase letter, and contains at least one alphanumeric character. And it says check your method with the following inputs. So there are these 6 passwords, and 5 of them are not good, they're weak because they violate one of the rules, one of these 5 rules. And then the last password is considered to be good. So there are 2 options for this first rule. Either it is at least 8 characters long or it's not. There are 2 options for the second rule, contains a digit or it doesn't. So in fact there are 2 options for each of the 5 rules, meaning that there are 32 possible combinations of how a password can fail. But here we only have 5 tests, and technically this is not enough. We really want the tests to cover all the different possible ways for a password to fail and to be good. But each of these passwords, this first one, is fine. It passes all the other 4 rules. It's only the rule that it must be at least 8 characters long for which it fails. So these passwords have been chosen to violate at least one rule, and that is not perfect. It's not 32 cases, but it's not bad either. I mean, at least we are going to check that we detect each rule violation. So at the end here it says add a main method to password check, that's a program, that reads a password from the command line and prints whether it is weak or good. The program should operate as follows. So I want to say run the program with this password, and it should say it's weak. And ideally in these situations we don't want to give the reason, because that would tell some kind of attacker how to fix a password to make it stronger. Although maybe there are no attackers involved. But in any case, it's only supposed to say weak or good. Right here, so let's get to writing this. I'm just going to move this off the screen. Maybe I'll copy this in a second. But yes, I'll just move this down here where I can see it. And I'm going to create a new Java project called Tut1. Don't create that module file. And inside here, I'm going to create a package for this program that I'll call password. And inside password, I'll create a new class that I'll call password check, because that's what the question asked us to write, password check.java. Okay, finish. Right, and it says create a static method. So public boolean is good password string s. Right, and Eclipse marks it as an error because it's not returning a boolean at the moment. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the rules and put them in a comment. So if I can, I'll copy these rules and put them up here, so to remind us what it has to do. Okay, right. So I'm going to start with this first rule. If s.length is less than 8. Return false. Okay, so this is my approach. I'm going to check each of these rules, and if any are violated, I'm going to return false immediately. And once I've done all the checks, if it passes all the checks, I know that it satisfies all the rules, and I can return true. So right at the end, I'm going to say return true. Okay, and now Eclipse is happy because this either returns a false here if this if statement is violated, the condition is violated, or it returns a true. And even though I still have to add these 4 rules, for now at least it'll work for checking the length. Right, so I've done that one. I'm going to delete it. I'm going to do these one by one, and then I'll combine them. So I'm going to have a boolean that says contains digit. I'm going to say it's false. Because I don't know if it contains a digit, I'm going to assume it does not. And I'm going to work through the string, and if that character at a certain position is a digit, then I'm going to make this true. So for loop, start right at the start and go up to the length of the string, I++. And for each I, for each index, I'm going to get the character. So I'm going to store it in ch s.char at position I. And now, how do I check if it's a digit? Well, in fact, Java has a class called Big C character. And it has a lot of static methods that will allow me to check things. Like, for example, is alphabetic, is a digit. And we can use those. So I can write is digit ch. And then I would say contains digit equals true. And I don't need to check anymore, so I can actually break immediately. But I want to try something else. I want to pretend that I didn't know about character.isDigit, because you probably didn't. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write normal Java statements that will check if this is true. So I'm going to say if it's more than equal to 0 and char is less than or equal to 9, then I know it's a digit because it's between 0 and 9. So then this is true. And at the end I can say if not contains digit, this rule is violated, return false. Okay, so I've now implemented this rule. And you can see that the others are actually just as easy. Except for the last one, I could just copy this code. So contains, what's next? Uppercase. Upper. Work through the string, get the character. If it's more than a big A or equal, and less than a big Z or equal, then contains upper is true, and copy. If it does not contain an upper, I'm going to return false. So I could write the code like this, but as you can see, it'll be quite long. So this routine is getting long and maybe not that easy to read. But I can, in fact, combine these two. So I can move this variable declaration up. I'm going to move it up to below contains digit. Nothing has changed. And I can move the inside if up into this for loop. And then I can delete the second for loop. And I can even combine these two ifs. If it does not contain a digit, or if it does not contain upper, return false, and I can delete this statement. So I've now combined the two for loops. There's still a problem here, but we'll get to that in a second. I just want to be sure we understand this, and we can get to the problem I mentioned. So I say it does not contain a digit and it does not contain an uppercase. And I'm going to work through the string character by character, starting at index 0. I'll make this a little bigger again, and going up to s.length. I find the character at that position and I check if it's a digit. And if I find a digit, I can make contains digit true. And if I find the uppercase character, I can say contains upper is true. The problem is this break, because as soon as it finds one digit, it's going to stop immediately. But it may be that the string contains a digit and then an uppercase. If it finds the digit first, it's going to stop. It's never going to see the uppercase letter. So contains upper will stay false, and I'll incorrectly say that this is a bad password, a weak password. So I shouldn't break here. I should just carry on. If I find a digit, make contains digit true and carry on. Even if there is another digit and I make it true again, that doesn't matter. As long as I work through all the characters, I shouldn't be breaking here. Right, so now you can see that lowercase will be just as easy. I'm going to duplicate this line, change the name of a variable to contains lower, copy this if statement, copy paste. If it's more than a small a and less than a small z, contains lower is true. And here, if it's no digit or no upper or not contains lower, we return false. And we've actually implemented these three rules as well. And the only one that's left is the punctuation. So, how am I going to do the punctuation? That is tricky, but let's say I'll say punct here. Now, and of course at the end as well, or if not contains punct. In fact, now that I think about it, contains may be a little too long. My code will look a little neater if I rename this variable to be has digit. And I'll rename this variable to be has upper. And I'll rename this variable. So renaming variables like this is really handy. It's called refactoring, because we are it's almost like factoring a quadratic equation. I'm changing a whole lot of stuff. Eclipse makes it easy for me. I can right click, refactor, and rename. Rename. And now I can just type the new name and it'll change it everywhere it appears. So this is just making my code a little shorter, and I'm using a keyboard shortcut. Right, the only thing we have to still check is how do we detect punctuation. Now I can write if the character is a dot, or if the character is a comma, or and so on. To be honest, I'll have to look up what all the punctuation marks are. I'm hoping that, and it's fine, you can write it like this, there's nothing wrong with it. This allows you to pick and choose which punctuation marks you really want in the password. But I think character has is defined is digit is identified ignorable is letter or character is letter or digit. Well, yeah, I'll maybe have to do that. I don't see a non-alphabetic. I don't see punctuation. It's alphabetical. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say it's not a letter or a digit. So it'll be either a white space or a punctuation. if the character is not a letter or a digit. Oh, come on, Yaku, get to the right place. There we go. If it's not a letter or a digit, and it's not character is white space, then I think I'll say it's punctuation. Did the question tell us what punctuation is? No, it didn't say anything. Okay, cool, fine. Okay, so we'll stick to this. So anything that's not a letter or a digit and is not white space, because we don't want the space in the middle of a password, even though it is allowed, and I don't really want to rule it out, but I think it's sensible to do this. So now I've written this whole routine without testing it at all, and I should have tested these rules one by one as I added them, but it's okay, it's not that big. I'm going to make this smaller again, and I'm going to add a main. Now the main is supposed to read from the command line, read arg0, and check that password, but I'm just going to write a little extra function now called check password, and I'm going to give these passwords that is in the example, these ones, copy. I'm going to send them to this method one by one. So the first one will be pass0, copy paste. I wanted to check that password, and let's copy this. Copy, paste, paste. Oops. Eclipse is getting too clever. Paste, paste, paste. It's doing that because I should have, I should also close all of these. Paste, 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 paste. Okay, I'm just going to delete the stupid backslash. Eclipse is just being clever. There we go. Of course, now it complains that it doesn't know what check password means, but I'll write that quickly. I'll just static void check password, and it's going to take a string s, and it's simply going to write system. I could have done this, but I was just too lazy. That's the password, and space, and is good password. Password s. Oh, maybe I didn't. Is good password. Oh, it's not static. And the question said I must make it static. I read it. Look, it does say that. That contains a static method. Okay, right. So, okay, fine. Now it should be fine. Yes. So I've written check password. It takes the password. It displays the password and a space and true or false if it's a good password or not. And that is just so that I can quickly check these 6 passwords if they're good or not. So I'm going to save, bring up my console. Come on. Oops. How do I make this bigger? Never mind. We can do this in a second. I'm going to run this program. I'm going to run password check. Okay, right. And it displayed, I think, let's do this. It displayed that is false. That is false because there's no digit. This one is false because there's no capital uppercase letter. This is false because there's no lowercase. False. Oh, definitely this is odd. I think I made a mistake, and I'll fix it in a second. But this password should be false because there's no punctuation, and this password is good because it has a digit, it's long enough, It has an uppercase P and lowercase letters and a punctuation mark right in the middle. Right. Okay, let's just fix this stupid mistake I made. Fine. And even though it's not complete, I really should be reading a password from the command line, but that's just arg0. And I'm not going to do that now. I think this is clear enough. Cool.